Hello friends, today I'm going to be talking about the most famous event to ever happen in Washington State, the eruption of Mount St. Helens, which occurred in May of 1980. Before the eruption, there had been 2 months of earthquakes and steam venting that really alerted people to what was going on. And this was a very busy area because Mount St. Helens was one of the major recreational areas in the state. It was a beautiful mountain that resembled Mount Fuji in Japan, and it was only about 2,500 years old, the basic mountain that was there. It was the youngest of the Cascade volcanoes. Starting about a month before the eruption, the north side of the mountain started to bulge. In fact, it was bulging 5 feet a day. So this was not a good sign. One of the real blessings of this whole eruption was that it occurred on Sunday, and all of the people from Weyerhaeuser who were logging, this was a major logging area, were at home. So many less people would have been killed. As it was, when it erupted, it erupted out the north side, and it was a lateral eruption, and it was the biggest landslide in history. Some of the projectiles were coming out at the speed of sound, and the detritus fell into the Spirit Lake there, slushed the water 300 feet up the side of the mountain, and when it came back, it was 200 feet higher than it was originally. 57 people died. 7,000 large game animals, bear, deer, elk, were killed. 185 miles of road completely disappeared. The ash that started blowing up into the sky after the landslide subsided was 15 miles high. And it spread ash over 11 states and 1 Canadian province. One of the things that I'm going to focus on in this speech is the effect of the ash on eastern Washington, because it was really very heavy duty. The ash was all blowing back to the east. It escaped Seattle, and in the east, by midday, all over eastern Washington, it was pitch black. And in Yakima, it was so bad that the cleanup in Yakima cost $2 million, which in 1980 was a lot of money. And after all the government reimbursement, it came to about $450,000, which for that small town practically bankrupted. Spokane was thinking, oh, it's way over there. We're not going to have to worry about this at all. Well, they were wrong. These pictures you see right now on the screen are of Spokane right before it started getting really black, and it got pitch black in Spokane. They only had an inch of ash there, but even that was very difficult to clean up. And one of the difficulties there and in Yakima was that they discovered that they could not just slush it down the drain because it would clog up the water treatment plants. One of the biggest problems with all of the ash was the problems with the cars, because the cars very quickly in this ash environment started to sputter and die, and quite a lot of them had permanent damage. You can see from this picture here that the cop cars were specially outfitted so that they could operate in this very hostile environment. The eruption of Mount St. Helens was the most dramatic volcanic eruption in the history of the United States. It was truly phenomenally large. And one of the things that's very interesting is that it did not stop with that eruption. It's continued. And in different spurts, like in the early to mid 80s, it started building back. And then in the early 2000s, it started building back. And it is now has a, well, let me tell you this, the cone of Mount St. Helens, when it blew up, it lost 1,300 feet in the top, and it was a crater 1 to 2 miles wide, and then there was a big opening on the north side. Well, since then, there has been a cone that is built up 850 feet tall, almost as tall as the Columbia Center here in Seattle. And it included 97,000 cubic yards of material. It's so much material is in this cone that you could have built a 7-lane road. I don't know why somebody was projecting a 7-lane road, but this is what I read, between New York and Portland, Oregon. The volcano has been steaming recently. One of the really interesting things to me in all of this, and you can see this here, is as the rocks and the magma came out, it had progressively less gas in it. And this was an actual solid slab of rock that came out of the ground, completely formed like a tombstone, 250 feet high. And it was the last big thing that came out of there, but it's very dramatic. And also, one other thing that's very dramatic is that the mountain had been covered with glaciers before. And now they have a new glacier that's come down and has encircled that whole cone area. St. Helens is a fascinating tale. It's a tale that really brings home the power of a volcano here to the United States. And I hope you have enjoyed this kind of tour of that great eruption and what has happened thereafter. Thank you.